Hello and greetings from Park City, Utah, where we currently are. I just want to start by updating you just a little bit on my life. We've been kind of on the road since March 8th, coming to the US from Israel, seeing family, working on some things that we want to work on, and yeah, just moving from place to place a lot. I had, just in case this shows up on the screen, I'll just let you know. I had a mishap on the swimming pool floor on Wednesday morning, and it looks like, thank God, I only sprained my wrist. It was pretty swollen. My flip flop got caught underneath the towel rack, and I didn't notice. And then when I started to walk, my foot didn't come with me, and the flip flop twisted, and I basically fell over. So when you see this, you'll know why. All right. That said, we're moving into the month of Elul. This is the first day of 2 days of Rosh Chodesh Elul, the head of the month. This is actually when there's a new month in Hebrew that has 2 days Rosh Chodesh. The first day is actually the last day of the previous month. So today is the last day of the month of Menachem Av. Happens to be my husband's birthday also. Mazel Tov. And tonight, for some of you, it's already tonight. We're 9 hours behind where we usually are in time zone, so it's not night yet. It will be actually the official start of the month of Elul. Last year at this time, I did 30 days or close to 30 days of broadcasting. And I really have been thinking about, wanting to do something like that this year. I cannot promise because, as I said, we're pretty much nomadic lately, moving from place to place, at least for the next few weeks. We'll still be like that. But I think it's super important, and I'm going to try to do as many days as I can. So if you want to be part of that, make sure you're a member of the Facebook group. Good if you sign up for my email list, which you can do at the website that's scrolling down on this purple bar, gateofunity.com. Really important, because then you'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. You'll not only get my emails, which I don't write often enough, but I think they're worth it when I do, and also notifications of whatever goes on. But look for me, here on Facebook and YouTube over the next 30 days, hopefully as many of those days as possible. All right, and now down to business. So last year at this time, I, as well as probably many other people, I was pretty sure that 2020 was on the way out and we were opening up to a new world. There were a lot of reasons for that. And I did not actually expect things to continue to get more intense. It's obvious now that they are going to get more intense, at least for a while. And I think it's imperative, absolutely imperative for each of us, not only to know what's happening, but to actually know what our power and influence is, as they say, in the matter. Like, what can you do about all of this? What can you do for yourself? What can you do for your family? What can you do to have influence on your community, on the world, on the way that things unfold? And we do have so much more influence than we imagine. For those of you who have ever played what I call the lime green car game with me, you know already that when you focus on something in a certain way with a certain energy, it starts to show up in your life. This is a very deep concept. It's not just New Age. Hasidus, the mystical Torah, says many things about this, including machshava moelis, that our thoughts actually have an impact in reality. That is technically because the world of thought, olam hamachshava, is above or embedded beneath, precedent to the world of olam hamaisa, the world of action, which is the physical world in which we're moving around, experiencing things and doing things. And so when we can change our thoughts and have a different thought, a different vision, a different energy that we are broadcasting into the world, it actually affects how things manifest from there out into the world. So this is, in a way, the crux of what I want to say today. Consider today kind of an introduction, because it's the last day of Menachem Av, and the beginning of this series for Elul, and the beginning of this time of Elul. So in Elul, as many of you know, I'm sure not all of you know, the Torah says something spectacular. Elul is an acronym for Ani Lidodi, B'Dodi Li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Who is the beloved? God. There is no more timely theme. It says about, I'll explain, and I'll be explaining over this next 30 days. By the way, if the door opens behind me, David is bringing things up. There we go, from the car. He's a hero. Load after load. We're living in our car, so we basically have we're living and we get hotels or stay with kids or friends, but we have our office, everything for work. We have our kitchen. We're still eating a lot of raw vegan. We have our outside furniture, our beach chairs. We have our bedroom, which is our suitcases. What else do we have? That's basically it, but it's a lot. So he's schlepping it in and out of everywhere. Okay, that said, Elul is a time when the king is in the field, which means that God comes out of, so to speak, the higher realms where God is aloof, where you need special merit or special protection or special actions in order to bring down a new result, in order to bring down a new relationship, in order to manifest something new in Elul, or even in order to create a new relationship with God. Actually, I shouldn't say even, because that's really the primary. That's the first thing. That's the foundation. Creating a new relationship with God. Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. I am to my beloved is to me. So in Elul, because the king is in the field, what does that mean? God isn't judging us. He's not here as a judge. Throughout this entire month, it's like, in a way, a free zone where we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to think about, we do have to think about the past. We're meant to complete and rectify whatever needs that from the past, and to create a new portal, a new platform for whatever we want to co-create an experience in the future. So powerful, but not from a place of being afraid, not from a place of fear of judgment or shame or guilt, even though sometimes we feel those things. We'll talk about that in future lives, of why that's part of the plan, what we're supposed to do about it. You're not the only one. No one is exempt from shame, guilt, fear, and all of that. It's part of the human condition on purpose, but not for today, not for today's discussion. So during the month of Elul, when the king is in the field, God is literally changing his role and coming down, not only into this world, but into each of our lives, into each of our own situations. So imagine that during this month, God is coming to you personally and saying, my darling, my beloved, Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. I know it's been so hard. I know it's so scary so much of the time. I know that you don't understand, and I'm sorry about that. And yet there are things that we need to accomplish together at this phase in history, so to speak. God cannot do this alone. That's the way he set things up. This world needs to change, and we can't do it alone. It must be done in partnership. I am to my beloved is to me. We are in a phase of history where we are not subjects merely, or victims, especially this month. We're in the phase of the year where where we're ready for intimate. It says that God comes into the field, the king comes into the field with a loving face and a happy face, in order to reach out to us, to encourage us to come closer. So depending, and here's a principle for you, your level of literal closeness with God, not just divine service, not just how humble you are, not just how much of a believer you are, but how much intimacy and trust you're able to experience, that is a game changer. That will make a massive difference in how things unfold in your life. So first of all, keep that in mind. This theme of I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me, this is the core. The assistance that we get based on this is from the king who comes into the field. Think about field workers. The field workers are dirty. They're out there sweating. They're in their grungy clothes. They're in the mud. They're distributing, throwing the feces all over the field, or whatever it is. You can just use your imagination. They would never go to visit a king and hope to be received. But God comes out, as the Torah describes, from within his innermost chamber, where he's guarded by his personal guard that no one can get through. And he walks through the what's that called, the throne room, where people come and stand in line after they get special permit, if they're that lucky, to plead their case in front of him. He walks right through that, and he goes through the other parts of the palace, and he goes out of the door of the palace, and he's followed by his entourage, the heavenly angels and so forth. And he walks where? To you, to where you are, to where you're struggling, to where you're suffering, to where you're scared, to where you're confused, to where you don't know, to where you feel ashamed. And there he comes, as the Torah says, with a happy face and a smiling face. to say to you, I am here for you. And you are at that point invited to initiate. Because it starts with the acronym for Elul starts with Ani, I am to my beloved. And the I in this case is you. And then my beloved reciprocally is to me. So here's the next thing that I want to say, and this will be the theme of the month, unless some other theme comes and supersedes, but it's hard to imagine that will happen. We are being invited now and assisted and loved and cuddled and protected and safe in initiating a new relationship with God. Throughout the month of Elul, the prime time to do that as we prepare for the new year. And the new year on Rosh Hashanah, it's not only for Jews. God evaluates, God rises above. The night of Rosh Hashanah, he rises above to a state that's called dormita, trance. He removes all of the previous connections other than the bare minimum to keep the world running. There is no more decree. There is no more predetermined reality. There is no more trajectory, so to speak, that's fixed on Rosh Hashanah, on the night of Rosh Hashanah. And depending on the work and the transformations that we've done in the month of Elul, and then the prayers that we do all over the world, primarily the Jewish people, but certainly everybody who feels they want to be part of this mission, and blowing the shofar and doing these prayers of what's called Malchus, of crowning God King, accepting upon ourselves this relationship on a whole new level. A new destiny comes into the world. What is possible now in the 30 days of Elul? Changing it all, upgrading it all, every day in new ways. That's not just for the world, that's for you personally. Everything also comes down for each of us personally on Rosh Hashanah. As we learn, we pray, we bless each other to be written in the book of life for a good and sweet year. And that's not a small thing, and especially not now. So here's the thing. Here's what I want to bring to the table. And I think this is good. As I said, this is going to be our theme. I'm not going to say too much more about it today, but what is that new relationship that we are invited to initiate? That is a relationship of God as beloved. And I'd like to see in any comments, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, live, replay, whatever it might be, I'd like to see it. I'd like to hear from you. How do you feel that God is your beloved? How do you think about God? How do you think about your relationship with God? I want to know. And I know that in the liturgy from Torah and Judaism and in most religions, most religions are probably Torah-based at their core. Certainly Islam, Christianity, whatever. God is always referred to as He, or the Master, the King, the Father. Not that these things are not. These things are absolutely true. God has many roles. He has all roles. He's also the creator. He's also the nurturer. He's also the inner force. He's also the consciousness. Anyway, but in our relationship with God throughout these millennia, we have been guided to see God primarily as He, partly because He's the giver and we're the receivers, partly because He is the one who's got the vision and He's making the rules. He's creating. He's bringing everything into being at every instant, now and now and now, out of His divine desire, and we're here to help. So that archetypal male-female relationship, nothing to do with the actual individual, because all of us have male and female, and we have them in many different ways within our beings. But that archetypal, in the archetype, the male is the giver, even physically, in like the creation of a child or whatever, the hunter-gatherer. The male is the one who initiates, and the female is the one who nurtures and who develops. As I said, we go through many different roles, and this is the time of the rise of the feminine, which I'll be talking a lot more about over the next several days. But here's the thing. When we look at God, and it was absolutely necessary for all kinds of reasons to see God primarily as a male figure. Not that God is a gender. God is everything. God is way beyond gender. God is not a person. God is not a being even. God is all. Ein od milvado, everything. All there is. Kind of difficult to really grasp. We'll talk about it a lot more and see if we can bring it in. But I am proposing, and I talked about this once, I think, before on a live that I did a week or two ago. So I've been pretty lax about showing up because of the constant movement and packing and unpacking, whatever. I believe very, very strongly that it's time for us to also, not to disregard God as, all of the things that God is. How could we do that? But to step into a relationship of beloved that also includes the intimacy of a mother. So we always think of God as Father, most of us do, if not Master, King, etc. But what about also as mother? What is a mother? Now, if you don't have a good relationship with your mother, and I know that's true for way too many people, thank God I did. I had a critical father, so this is, I mean, he taught me many things, but he tended to be more judgmental and critical. I think that's more the archetype of the father. But if you look at a mother animal will protect that child when it's still dependent on her with her life, with fierceness at all costs. That mother protection, that mother love, it's not judgmental. If it needs the child to learn a lesson, I remember sitting in my front porch in Morristown, New Jersey, before we made Aliyah and watching the tree across the street. It was the cutest thing ever. It's the only time I ever saw this, but there was a mother squirrel that was trying to train her baby to leap from branch to branch, and the baby was scared. I think it's probably unusual. And the mother was really puzzled. Like, she kept coming back and showing the baby. You could see her almost like speaking to the baby. She's like running back to him, and he's like this. And she jumps to the next, and the baby like hangs back. And then the mother goes back again, tries to show the baby again. That's how a mother, typically the archetypal mother, will teach a child. Not, you disobeyed me and you're going to learn to listen. That's not the archetype of a mother. The only time that an archetypal mother generally will become really angry with a child, at least as far as I see it, as much as I've meditated on this so far, is when the child is really nasty and hurtful to another child. Then the mother wants to protect the other child, and so, she needs to sometimes react to the child that's hurting the other child. But it's always about the child. It's always about protecting the child. God is also our mother. God is not male. God is male, female, and way beyond. Like some people say he, she, it. I used to find that weird. Now I find it very intriguing, because when I think about God as my mother, it doesn't mean God's not my king, my master, the creator, my father. Of course he is. But when I think about God as my mother, it's a whole different ballgame. I can feel cradled. I imagine myself in the womb of my mother. What happens when the child is in the womb of the mother? The child's connected by an umbilical cord. The child gets everything that he or she needs at all times. And the mother energy and nurturance and growth factors, everything is a DNA even is flowing through the child's cells, building the child. It's an intrinsic flow, ever always connected relationship. And I think that much to be explored here. I have a lot to say about it too. I'm not going to say much more about it right now. But that relationship, I believe, will help to redeem our souls from exile, will help to redeem the Shekhinah, the immanent female aspect of God. God is embedded in the world, the source of all the souls. That's the Shekhinah. Will help to free the Shekhinah from Golus, because the Shekhinah, we're told the Shekhinah is in exile. Wherever we go, the Shekhinah goes with us. So this is a kind of a revolutionary way for me to think, at least from my perspective, but I'm so clear that it's imperative that God is waiting for this, that in order to move into a new world, we need to move from fear, even fear of being bad, not that we shouldn't do our best to be good, but it's not even about good and bad. It's about love and co-creation. When you love someone, when you're intimate with someone, you want what they want. You don't have to be good and try to suppress yourself to do what they want. It changes you from the inside. It creates an intimacy and an alignment that nothing else creates. So if the image of God as mother works for you, run with it. If it doesn't, and you want to think about intimacy some other way. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. That is more of a male, female, and that's also part of it. But whatever, again, God is not male or female. But whatever it takes to move out of that old relationship of fear, and fear is being triggered everywhere on purpose, fear is being weaponized against all of us from all directions. The primary thing that needs to be shifted for us to feel intimacy is fear. Because love, which is intimacy and closeness, a connection, a drawing towards something, and fear are core opposites. Those are the two core emotions, according to the Torah, love and fear. Love is on the right side, corresponding to the right shoulder, chesed, or you Kabbalists, Gevurah on the left side. And we're taught in the Shema prayer, it says the seminal prayer for the Jewish people, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha b'chol nafshecha b'chol miyadecha. You are to love. It's the commandment to know that God, our Lord, a God outside of the world, the creator God, inside of the world is one, to bring down and reveal that truth, and to love God, our God, with all parts of us, with all parts of us. And you cannot love God with all parts of you when you're in a state of fear. You can't. It's an opposite. So whatever it takes to eliminate fear, we will be triggered into fear, but to use those triggers to bring out the deeper intimacy. How do we do that? We'll talk about it, but start with simple prayer. Start with a simple awareness, and this is the fairy dust. I like to call assignments fairy dust. So this is your fairy dust for today as we prepare to move into Elul. Some of you are already there. I'm not going to be there for another couple hours. Probably most people are already there. But the fairy dust for today is to practice intimate prayer, to talk to God about all of your trauma, about all of the reasons why you have fear, about what disturbs you, and about what you truly desire. Open your heart and ask for revealed love, and ask to be assisted in opening the love in your own heart. And then look at that inner pattern. Look at your own inner wiring to trauma, to fear, to anxiety. And if it helps you, visualize what it would feel like to feel safe and happy. What would it feel like? What would it take? What are moments in your past where you might have felt safe and happy, completely safe and happy? A baby doesn't think about the baby doesn't have to have faith that his mother's going to give him food. It's not an issue. It's not something that comes up. The baby is so intrinsically connected to the mother that the baby is just in a state of relaxation and happiness and closeness. That's a kind of visceral definition of trust. In Hebrew, bitachon. And bitachon, the Torah teaches us, is an absolute guarantee of revealed good. So this intimacy is a game changer, a world changer. And as Elul comes in, Ani l'dodi v'dodi li, I am to my beloved is to me, and the king is in the field. Open your heart to that king. Explore the possibility that a nurturing love relationship, a protective love relationship is available, that we can allow for that possibility, that we can forgive ourselves and trust that we will be forgiven. And it doesn't mean not to look at what's gone wrong in the past year, what you wanted to accomplish and didn't, what you should have accomplished and didn't, what you shouldn't have done and did. Those things are real, and we need to be responsible because we're here for a purpose. Everything that we do matters, everything, without exception. But we can do it from a place of shame, fear, guilt, or resistance, not do it, because what's the point? Or anger, what's the point? Or we can do it from a place of, I'm going to do my part, but I got to relax. I don't want to feel fear and trauma. I want to see co-creation in action. Please help me and be with me. And then visualize that close relationship, whatever it means to you. Find your archetypal mother or your archetypal protective father, if that's what works better for you, or your archetypal protective king, but you want to find that place of intimacy and trust. Intimacy and trust. And remember that trust isn't a concept. I've talked about this before. I'll end with this. I think the difference between faith and trust. Faith is emunah, which is a superconscious power of the soul. Faith is the soul's ability to override the human experience and to connect to something higher, knowing on some level that it's good. Powerful, powerful, powerful thing. But does it make you feel good? Does it take you out of slavery? Does it make you feel safe and relaxed like a baby in his mother's arms, her mother's arms? Does it do that? No, it doesn't. If it does, it's not just faith, it's trust. And trust is where the magic happens. Trust is what we must accomplish throughout this month of Elul. Trust, intimacy, a new relationship with God. And from that place, starting right here and right now, look at the past year and see where things can be upgraded. Or, it might be as simple as you need to make an apology to somebody, or a phone call that you put off. It might be a pattern that you see now in yourself that is up for change. It could be anything. And look then at the future, at any frustrated future dreams or hopes that you might have, whether in your own life or in the world, and look at it and ask yourself, what would it be like if the past wasn't in the way and My frustration wasn't in the way anymore, and all the failures and all the traumas didn't have to hold back anything, didn't mean anything about the future. What if I could actually step into a new reality right now? What would that feel like? What would that look like? What would I do? And that is setting the stage for the month of Elul. So that's your fairy dust. Spend as much or as little time as you want on it. I hope to be back with you tomorrow at some point. I can't say exactly when. I've got a bunch of appointments, but I'll be doing my best, Bleedinator, to show up for as many of the 30 days of Elul as I can. Now, I want to tell you, I am motivated I have intrinsic motivation. I also have extrinsic motivation. One of my strongest extrinsic motivations is when I feel like I'm making an impact. So the more you comment on the video, the more you share, the more you follow through and let me know what results you get, the more I feel inspired and motivated to show up myself. So nobody does anything alone anymore. We're in this together, the globe, the world, all of humanity, and not just our generation, all generations are at this tipping point now. We're being squeezed out of the old way and pushed through that birth passage into a new world. And it really is that. The increasing darkness does not mean it's getting worse. The process could get worse, or we could stop just receiving and reacting and start broadcasting into the system, into the whole, and make things a lot better, a lot faster. But we'll talk about that. Okay, everybody. Chodesh Tov, Good Chodesh, Happy Elul. Ksiva v'chsima tova l'shana tova m'suka. You should be written and sealed in the book of life for a good and sweet year. So should we be all. We should experience incredible, beautiful, joyous miracles and transformations still in this month of Elul. Evil should fall, good should rise, but nobody gets out of this without changing. So consider anything that's happening around you. Consider that it's a message to you that you need to make some changes. They don't have to be hard changes. They could be joyful changes, but change must happen. And I am here to support. Take care. Good Chodesh. Happy Elul.